Right. So, hello, welcome aboard, and we have got an absolutely amazing special guest, Mr. Joe Royle.
Thank you.
Joe, thank you for coming. Amazing to see you. Everything that I remember about Everton as a kid, the best parts of it were from you. You know, the FA Cup, obviously, the season after, they were going into Europe, and finishing high as sixth. That for me at the time was pinnacle, because I'd never seen anything in the 80s. My dad and my brother had. I never had that moment, but I'm glad to say I went to more cup finals than my brother, and we actually won. But Barney, would you want to start us off? We've got a few questions we'd like to go through with you, Joe, if you don't mind.
Can you tell us what you're doing with yourself now?
I'm now a director of Wigan Athletic, where my son is chairman, my boss. I'm working there as a director, a football director. I work with Paul Cook, who's our manager.
Kirby lad as well.
Yeah, he's a good Kirby lad. You know, he's not far from here actually.
Oh.
And I'm enjoying it. You know, I'm very fortunate. I'm 70 now. I signed my first contract at Everton when I was 14, and I've hardly been out of football all these years. So there I am, an old fart still, making a living.
So no signs of retirement then, no?
I've tried retirement 3 times and I'm not very good at it.
So what is that keeps you in football? What keeps you from that retirement?
I still love it. I still love the 90 minutes on a Saturday. I still love the excitement and the passion. I go into the training ground at Wigan 3-4 times a week, you know, to see Paul, to see the cultural attaché for Hype and Peter Reid. And we have a good giggle together. I've got to say Paul's a terrific coach, gets the players going, for the red, that is, you know.
Do you miss being a coach?
As I say, I've retired 3 times. I'm probably too old to come back in at that level now. Yeah. But you know, I loved being in charge at Oldham. 12 great years. Oldham were founding members of the Premier League, which people forget about. I love coming back to Everton. Coming back in November, winning the first 3 games when we were bottom of the league. I loved managing at Ipswich Town. I've got to say that everywhere I've been, I've enjoyed it. I love Manchester City. I went there when they were financially embarrassed. I mean, that seems to be a theme of my management. I never went anywhere where there was really heavy money. But no, football's been very good to me.
Yeah, excellent. So you said you signed for Everton when you were 14.
Yeah.
Made your debut when you were 16.
Yeah.
And as we were saying just off air, we've got this. So this is the programme from the game that you made your debut on. So yeah. Blackpool, January the 15th, 1966. But you're not in it.
No, it was a shock to everybody. I mean, it was a bigger shock to me. I was cleaning the boots with an overall on the Friday before the Saturday game at Blackpool, and I got a call from Gordon Watson, who was one of the youth coaches there. He said, the manager wants to see you upstairs at Goodison. So the immediate thought was, what have I done wrong? You know, we didn't see Harry an awful lot. So I went upstairs and I sat outside his office for a quarter of an hour, and then I got called in. Sit down, son. He said, I've just had your father on the phone and I've told him that if the weather doesn't get any worse, you'll be playing tomorrow in the first team in place of Alex Young. Yes.
Well, with that then, obviously you don't know a lot of people probably don't know the team news like we do. We don't know until an hour before kick-off.
Yeah.
Did people actually go to Blackpool with the expectation of Alex Young playing?
No, because he was out that night. By the time I got home to Parkhurst Road in Norris Green, the road was full of cars, press cars, radio cars, television cars. There was all kinds going on, and you know, we never normally saw 3 cars in a day in Parkhurst Road. And so the secret was out. He'd let it out that night, and it was unreal. I did all the interviews with my mum and dad, and set off the next day, 2 buses to Goodison Park to get the team coach.
Amazing. So what was the feeling like when obviously you knew you were then coming in for Alex Young? What was the fans' reaction to that?
Well, the fans' reaction was, obviously they were big fans of Alex. I mean, I was a fan. I'd stood on the paddock watching Alex Young make his home debut. You know, I was there and amazed at the way he swayed across the ball and people fell over. A marvellous. I actually played a few games with Alex, you know, and he was great to play with. He was great to a young kid like myself. So I could understand if there was a bit of hostility. What Catterick didn't tell the fans at the time was there were going to be a few seniors left out because the FA Cup started the following week, and he wanted to rest a few. And of course it was all justified when Everton went on to win the 1966 FA Cup. So, and of course from that game, Alan Ball, I'm sure that Catherine made his mind up that day that Alan Ball was going to be a player that he was going to have. When we were all slipping and sliding over the pitch, Alan Ball was dancing over it, very cheekily wiped his nose on a corner flag in front of the Everton fans, and they didn't boo him for it, they loved him for it, you know. And I'm sure that day, and it turned out to be a great year. Everton won the FA Cup, England won the World Cup, Alan Ball was man of the match. Alan Ball signed for Everton, and I'd made my debut.
Brilliant.
Amazing.
Yeah, so obviously you've played alongside some great Everton players.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic. I think I can guess the name that you're going to say, but who's the best Everton player you played alongside?
Anyone that played with Alan Ball will tell you Alan Ball. Bally did a lot. He was a terrible loser. Sometimes used to cry if we lost. Boots would fly around. He was a terrible loser. What a player though. He did a lot. He could tackle when he needed be, although he nipped the ball more than tackled. He had 3 lungs. He was up and down all day. He could play. Most of all, he could play. And a very rare. People talk about great midfielders, you know, and what they can do and can't do. Very few can actually run and dictate the pace of a game. David Silva does it now in Manchester City. Gazza in his prime did it, and Alan Ball did it. You know, Alan Ball could slow the game down. By the time he got to Arsenal, ravaged with injuries, he sort of hung out in the centre circle and ran the game. And his first touch was that good. You couldn't get near him. You know, people I've spoken with since that played against him said I was determined to give him a good kick in and slow him down, but you couldn't get near him. No. And he was that good. Alex Young was great, and he was great to me. They all were the senior players that day. I've got one of those programmes somewhere signed by everyone. So,
amazing.
Well, I want to get you to sign this up for me, Joe.
No problem.
So in contrast to that, obviously being a centre forward yourself, who's the toughest player that you played against?
Well, there's 2 things, toughest and best. I mean, you knew if you played against Ron Yates, you were going to get a clump. He was never more dangerous than when everyone else was watching the ball in your box. And then you get, you know, a little dig in the ribs or something, you know. So I realised very early on that the way to play against Ron was keep moving. If you're talking about the best, Roy McFarlane was the best. You know, Roy was a great footballer. He was strong. He could bite as well. Great on the ball. But for dodgy hamstrings, he would have had 100 caps for England. He was that good, Roy, and he's still my mate.
Well, so going back to yourself then, Joe, 102 league goals in 232 appearances, and including the 4-year period where you scored consecutively 20 plus goals in one season called 29. What one stands out for you as the best?
I think
and your most important as well, I suppose.
Most important might have been when I scrambled over the line at Old Trafford when we beat United, and it hit my knee, my nose, every part of my body but my foot, and I ended up like a beach whale with the ball in the net, but it was in the net, and it counted, you know, and it counts just the same as a 30-yard volley, of course. A lot of fans would talk about a goal that I scored at Ellen Road. Bally and I had a great free kick routine, you know, when it was anywhere around the box, Bally would put it down and look a little bit disinterested, and I'd walk away and then duck back in all of a sudden, and Bally could come off one stride and put it exactly on a sixpence.
Amazing.
And I ended up diving in front of Gary Sprake and headed it into the net while he's coming out feet first, ripped my shorts off, but who cares, you know? But who cares? So people talk about that as a great goal that I scored, but they all count.
Exactly. Moving on from your playing career then, you came to Everton at a very turbulent time. Following on from the poor start that we had with Mike Walker. What were your thoughts coming in as a manager, and what was your game plan? And do you think that the derby was the catalyst for everything, including
there's no doubt. I mean, I drove down the East Lancashire Road. My chairman at Oldham, Ian Stott, had told me, I know you want to go to Everton, we've kept other clubs from you, I ain't going to keep this one from you. He said, do you want to go and talk to them? So yeah, I said I'd already spoken to the the deputy chairman, Cliff Finch, and told him, he says that I said to him, I walk on broken glass, which is probably true. Sounds a bit corny, but it was very true. And I was driving to Goodison Park to have talks with Peter Johnson, Cliff Finch, and maybe the secretary. And I thought when I got there, there's an awful lot of cars outside. You know,
like your debut again.
Is there a dance going on here tonight or something? And when they opened the door, lights, and I was introduced as Everton's new manager. We hadn't talked about a contract. In fact, I didn't have a contract for a month.
Wow.
Really? Yeah.
No, we just never got round to it. You know, I just said, yeah, I'm coming. That was it. And then I looked at the fixtures. Liverpool at home, Chelsea away, Leeds away, and they were the first 3 games, and they were all top 6 sides at the time. I think the Reds were second. It was an international break, and myself and Willie Donachie, my coach, we went away with a load of VH, those big cassettes that we used to have, you know, of the games. Both met the next day with the same result, and we said soft touch. You know, soft touch, people not playing who should be playing. I'd been to see the reserves very early on. My first game was actually the reserves at Anfield, and they won, and Andy Hinchcliffe's playing in that, Joe Parkinson's playing in that, John Eberl's playing in that. So, well, those 3 are playing for a start, you know. Yeah. So worked the team around that, and then we worked hard on pressing and closing all the time. We were pressing before people were talking about pressing. Because my Oldham team had done that. You know, we worked with Milligan and Henry, 2 guys in the middle who would go to war for you. And Joe Parkinson, he was that perfect blend, almost a centre half, but certainly a midfield player, deceptively quick across 10 yards, strong as an ox, and decent on the ball.
Yeah, very intelligent player.
And again, like Graham Stewart, Terry Venables had phoned me about both of them for the England team by the end of the season. You know?
Yeah.
So when you didn't get a contract for a month, when did Oldham realise that you weren't coming back?
Well, they knew. You know, I'd left Oldham. You know, I'd officially left Oldham. But I sort of said to Peter one day, Peter and I had a great relationship and still have. And I just said, do you think we better sort this contract out? And he said rather cheekily, he said, well, you're being paid quite well at Oldham. He said, I'd like to keep you on the same money. I said, well, I wouldn't. You know, so we obviously started managing this place as opposed to managing Oldham.
Yeah.
So anyway, we sorted it out. It was never going to be a problem. The finance was never a problem with me anyway.
Yeah.
So I think it was about a month later that I signed and became officially Everton's manager.
So if that moves on to like the FA Cup battle that you got, walking through the doors goods in November, did you think you'd get to lift in the FA Cup with Everton as a manager? I
hadn't even got a thought on my mind about it, to be honest with you. Sorry, there's Darren Griffiths just arriving. I hadn't even got a thought on my mind about the FA Cup. All I saw was 8 points from 14 games, bottom of the table, on schedule for 24 points. You know, we ended up with 50. And I just didn't want to be the manager that had relegation on his CV with Everton. So the FA Cup was never a thought in my mind. And then we started getting a few results, and at the first board meeting, I told them we're playing cup football. If anyone wants to have a bet on us, I wouldn't put it past us. And without naming one of the directors, he told me he did have a sizable bet on us, and he had a sizable win.
So obviously within that cup probably be Derby, Norwich, Newcastle, Spurs. Is there any standout moments from that? And obviously eventually Man United in the final, but is there any standout moments from them games?
I think that the performance against Spurs at Ellen Road was not just a great performance by us. I think that was one of the best modern performances by an Everton side. I mean, we were going there, we were going to be the cannon fodder. You know, they had Klinsmann and all these top players, and they were going to smash us. And to be honest with you, 4-1 flattered them. And that one goal we conceded, which was
dubious penalty, that wasn't
a
it?
dubious penalty to say the least, was the only goal we conceded in the cup run.
We scored 13 goals.
So I mean, we were lucky at Bristol City.
Dave, I think Dave highlighted that point here.
That was my point. Matt Jackson
screaming
with his left foot on the half volley. It's never happened before or since. And by the way, we had rather large dose of Montezuma's revenge in the squad. You know, I remember one of the players running off to visit the toilet. So we did well.
Yeah.
We did well to get through that game. And I do remember saying afterwards to the press, I just hope we haven't used all our luck up today.
Yeah, I'm sure someone's going to ask you downstairs, but the Amokachi substitute against Spurs? what was the script there?
Well, it was quite simple, you know, that Rideout had gone down injured on the far side of the pitch. I'd asked Daniel to warm up. He must have thought I said, "You're on, Daniel," because they sound similar. And he substituted himself without... and I'm running up the pitch, no, you know. So he came on and scored 2, and I've always said it's the best substitution I never
made. So looking at the side now,
yeah.
If you could pick one player from your day and one player from your managerial day at Everton to play in this side now, who would you pick and why?
Well, Alan Ball, obviously. Alan Ball didn't improve any side. To improve this side, probably Duncan, because they desperately need someone with size and pace up front.
Yeah.
You know, and Duncan, you know, there were other players. Joe Parkinson would waltz into this side. Hinchcliffe was terrific.
Andre.
Well, Andre was second season, you know. Andre
Yeah.
was second season, and that's another tale. I did an interview at Goodison 2 days ago for Russian television, and they asked me who was the best player I'd ever signed, and I said Andrei Kanchelski. So they couldn't wait to get back to Russia.
So with the current side, are you concerned?
No, there won't be a problem. You know, it was. No, you see there are a lot worse sides than us in the division. Unfortunately, at the moment, as I just said before, the Premier League has developed into a two-team league at the moment, a little like Scotland, Celtic and Rangers. Well, whether we like it or not, it's our neighbours plus Manchester City, and you know, I think everyone else is lagging behind them a bit.
How would we change it?
Recruitment from within or without. You know, I don't know. I speak to Unzi twice a week, and he tells me that young Gordon's doing very well, and 1 or 2 others are doing very well, not ready yet. I was great to see Tom Davis back in the side last week, giving us some energy, and he's been much criticised, but I do wish he cut his hair and get a shave.
I'm glad to cut mine now too.
But he's a great kid, and I think he's a smashing player.
Yeah. As a young debutant then, and a local lad, do you think there's more pressure on the local kids to step up and to be counted for in the Everton side?
It depends on the results. Everything, it's a Saturday game. Everything depends on results. You can carry someone if the results are going well. If they're not, everything else is magnified. And quite honestly, you know, when Tom came in, we won Young Player of the Year, Performance of the Year, Goal of the Season against Manchester City. Yeah. I mean, he won the lot. And then all of a sudden, under Koeman, he was in and out or out and in. He never seemed to finish 90 minutes, and I think it hit him hard. And I think it's only now that he starts recovering his confidence a wee bit. But I saw his performance against West Ham. I made him on the day the best player on the pitch.
By far, I agree.
And quite honestly, it was great to see. I never saw the Watford game, but I'm told he did okay then.
He was the same then. He was always penetrating. He was always looking forward. I think that's something that, especially when we played to Holden. Yeah. The 2 old who were old don't seem to look forward. But Tom seems to always want to go forward.
Pace and that
energy. He's got energy. So you know, he's a great kid, by the way. You know, if he sees this, I'm sorry about the beard. You know.
Right, okay, well, we'll wrap it up because we're going to go downstairs and have a really good evening with you, Joe. We've got plenty of people downstairs to ask you even more questions that we just pestered you with. Absolute pleasure, thank you so much.
You're welcome, guys, and good luck.
Cheers, thank you. Right, until then, up the toffees and we'll speak to you soon.
Up the Blues.